On the 2nd of August, 2017, at approximately 5:15 p.m., 21-year-old Savannah Gold left her parents' home and drove to San Jose Boulevard in Jacksonville, Florida. She had a 5:30 shift at the Bonefish Grill, a casual seafood restaurant where she worked as a waitress. But on this occasion, she never showed up. It was a fairly quiet Wednesday afternoon at the diner. Her absence wasn't too much of a strain, so the on-duty supervisor simply took her hours off the roster for that day and thought nothing else of it. Suspicions only arose roughly 1 hour and 15 minutes after Savannah had left the house, as her father received a text message from her phone number. Savannah's older brother also received a text 43 seconds later. Although both texts came from Savannah's number, her family knew right away that something wasn't right. She had just left the house in what appeared to be very high spirits, but now proclaimed to be running away with an unidentified man without packing so much as a change of clothes. Not only that, but the text messages were riddled with errors and composed in a completely different way to how she would normally write. Her phone was switched off when they tried calling just minutes after receiving the texts, so they immediately called her place of work and found out that she hadn't shown up. It was at that point they called police and filed a missing persons report. Savannah had been gone for less than 2 hours. Roughly 40 minutes later, her car was found unlocked and abandoned in the Bonefish Grill parking lot, and the only thing missing was her phone. Her wallet, ID, and a number of other valuable items had not been taken. Investigators went through the parking lot surveillance tapes and discovered what would then become the primary piece of evidence for the case. The majority of footage remains undisclosed to the public, but a detailed description of what occurred has already been released. What we know is that Savannah parked her car and stepped out of the vehicle at exactly 5:31 p.m. She then walked over to another vehicle and conversed with the occupant for 14 minutes through the driver's side window. She then got into the back seat of said vehicle at 5:45 p.m. 14 seconds later, the car began to shake sporadically as if some type of struggle was occurring inside. The rear door swung open 3 times, but was immediately and forcefully shut each time. It appeared as though someone was attempting to get out, but couldn't. This lasted for 49 seconds until the vehicle suddenly stopped moving. A male figure was then seen getting out and proceeded to walk over to Savannah's car that was 20 feet away. The surveillance was grainy, and the person could not be identified from the footage alone. All that police could ascertain was that he had short brown hair and was roughly 5'11". The unidentified person reached into Savannah's car and took out what police believed was her phone. He then slashed the front tire with a knife before walking back to his own vehicle. He got in and drove away from the scene at exactly 6:04 p.m. Savannah was never seen exiting the car. This was a crucial piece of evidence, and essentially all investigators had to go on. They had to find out who the man was in the video, and fast, but they also had to be careful in how they conducted their investigation. They couldn't let anyone find out they had this footage in their possession, as knowing this information could allow a suspect to alter their alibi to fit with the evidence. This would take a significant advantage away from investigators during interrogation, and would hinder their ability to build a case to a considerable degree. Over the following 2 days, investigators briefly interviewed all the staff at the Bonefish Grill. For the most part, these encounters consisted of just 3 questions. When was the last time you saw Savannah? Do you know where she is? And, is there anything you know that could help with our investigation? Within 48 hours, they had 3 potential suspects, whose names were then ran through the motor insurance database. The first suspect didn't have a license. The second suspect owned a bright red 2001 Jeep Cherokee, while the third suspect was registered to a 2012 silver Chevy Malibu, an identical match to the vehicle seen on surveillance. His name was Lee Rodarty. He was 28 years old and was both the manager and head chef at the Bonefish Grill. Coincidentally, he was the first person to be interviewed at the diner about Savannah's disappearance, where he told investigators that he hadn't seen her in about 3 weeks and knew nothing of her current whereabouts. It was only from his co-workers that police discovered he was having an on and off relationship with Savannah for the last 8 months, despite it being against company policy. From what investigators could gather, this was a very popular individual, rising fast through the ranks of his chosen profession. He was known for his charm and charisma amongst his colleagues, and also had a lot of success when it came to the opposite sex. On all accounts, his life seemed to be going very well, but he was now the prime suspect in a kidnapping investigation, and the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office planned their next steps in meticulous detail. At around 5:15 p.m. on August 5th, police arrested Rodarty while midway through his shift at work. They told him it was for an outstanding traffic warrant and took him to to the JSO Police Department.
Can you do me a favor? I'm going to have you take that apron off, too, just to kind of get it right there. I'll stay right out here. You can go ahead and have a seat for me real quick. I'll be right back, okay?
Yes, sir.
The officer said he would be right back, yet Lee was left to sit there for 90 minutes with nothing but his own thoughts to keep him company. Now, think of yourself in his position, and presume you were guilty of whatever happened to Savannah, and that whatever happened was something truly horrific. In the present moment, you have just been arrested for an outstanding traffic warrant, yet you were interviewed the day before about your coworker's disappearance. 1,000,001 things will be running through your mind about what could happen next, and as each second ticks by, the anxiety this will cause will begin to fester and slowly intensify. However, the optimism of uncertainty would still be present. There would still be hope, but this hope is about to be dashed. The sound of the door opening would have been a pleasant relief from the monotonous cycle of Rodarti's own thoughts, yet this brief moment of alleviation would have instantly converted to shock as Detective Ray Reeves walked through the door, the same investigator who had interviewed him about Savannah the day prior.
Hey, man. How you doing? Good, good. You remember me from the other day, Detective Reeves? Okay.
It would have been at this moment that Lee realized his situation was far more severe than he was hoping. The relative optimism he would have felt during the initial 90 minutes on his own will now be gone, which in turn will greatly magnify the contrasting sense of fear he will now be experiencing.
This is my partner, Detective Staley. She was interviewing some of the other folks, waiters and other staff people the other day, so she didn't get a chance to come in at the time. I wanted to talk to you, or actually we wanted to. You want some more water?
Please. Actually, would it be all right to use the restroom one more time?
Yeah. Come on. You bet. I'll walk out there. You want some water?
Please. Okay. Be all right.
Yeah. We got a little water. Like I said, I want to kind of go over some stuff. I know we talked the other day just for a few minutes and had some concerns about a couple things. And, oh, okay. Well, there we go. Anybody else wants to talk? There we go. I wanted to talk to you about Savannah. So I just had a couple of things that came up that I wanted to ask you about specifically that didn't seem to line up. So I wanted to come down and talk to you. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? Have you drank any alcohol today? Any drugs today?
I took an Adderall that my buddy gave me.
Okay.
Because I was there so late last night. I came in and was super tired. Like, here, take this.
Okay. Adderall?
Yeah.
And do you normally take that?
No, I've taken one a long time ago. Like,
okay.
I wouldn't say high school, a little bit after high school, but it's been years.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. I appreciate that. Okay. All right. So, Savannah, you said that you knew her and you guys had, you knew her from work. I mean, just kind of fill me in with that. How long have you known her?
Like I said,
The detective starts off with an open-ended question. This gives the suspect total freedom and flexibility in how they wish to respond. It's commonly believed that people with nothing to hide are likely to give a short and concise response to these types of questions. For example, if Lee was completely unconcerned with what was going on, he could respond in 3 short sentences. I met her from work. I've known her for 2 years. We dated for a bit. To the contrary, if an individual does have something to hide, they are more likely to give a lengthy and detailed response. The simple reasoning behind this is that they are seeking approval. Imagine yourself in a job interview and you're asked an open-ended question, such as, "Tell me about yourself." You would feel the need to be thorough in order to please your potential employer. The psychological premise is exactly the same with regard to police interrogations, albeit under completely different circumstances. Guilty subjects will see the interrogator as an imminent threat, and will therefore attempt to appease this threat to prevent further aggression. Truthful subjects will have no fear nor concern with regard to the same element. They would see the interrogator as a mere inconvenience as opposed to a threat.
I've known her obviously since you started working there. I would say probably about 8 months ago or so. we started hanging out outside of work. And at the time, I had a girlfriend. But I kind of, we kind of connected, me and Savannah. So we hung out a little bit here and there. Got pretty close. We come from, I guess, somewhat similar backgrounds, I guess you should say.
Okay.
She didn't have it the best growing up, neither did I. So we kind of connected and hung out for a little while. And then she started using drugs a lot.
Okay.
Now, I used them with her, not the same drugs that she used all the time, but I did them with her a couple times, and then she started to get heavy into them. And
oh, gotcha. Okay.
so I kind of just tried to take a step back and, put things off. Probably a month or so ago, I saw Savannah at work, and she looked healthy again. She gained a little bit of weight, and just friendly talk at work. Telling her, hope everything's been good. And she told me, that I guess she did a lot of drugs and ended up in the hospital. She ended up missing I want to say a couple of days, 3 or 4 days from work.
Oh, okay.
So obviously, me being pretty close to her, I was concerned and everything. But after she came back, she looked good, and she ended up telling me that I guess, over those 4 days she detoxed pretty well, and she kind of caught a, new sense into why she shouldn't do some drugs so much.
Okay.
And like I said, she looked good, she started looking healthy, so we kind of were talking, here and there. We hung out a couple times. She came over to the house, and, we just kicked back, drink a couple beers, watch movies, stuff like that. Like I said, we did, we took some pain pills here and there on occasion, but then she started bringing heroin over and stuff like that. And that's, my mom was addicted to methamphetamines when I was younger, so those hard drugs just kind of scare me a little bit. So that's why I took a step back the first time. I ended up telling her, I was like, hey, for one, I'm dealing with a lot of personal stuff myself right now as it is. I'm a little depressed. But I think we're moving too fast. I think we should, stop talking.
Okay.
And she said, I understand, it's completely fine, no problem, she said, I'll delete your number, I'll never text you again. And that was the last time that we text.
Okay.
When was that? Yeah. When was that?
It was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Sometime in July.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things you said was that was the last time that you had contact with her.
Yes.
As far as, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I mean you correct me.
That was the last time that I texted her.
Yeah, text or a phone call or a messenger
Yeah.
or anything like that. 2 to 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Okay. And then the last time, when was the last time you saw her?
This is what I was a bit. I didn't tell you the truth when we talked about the fish.
Okay.
Lee doesn't know the extent of the evidence, but he knows the investigators have something, and he now has no choice but to amend his alibi to some degree and give some form of admission. This allows the investigators to get one step closer to a confession, while also keeping the capacity of the evidence hidden until a more critical moment.
Last time I saw her was Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
I heard that she has been basically telling a lot of people at work that we hooked up a bunch, a couple days before that, and that she was going to tell about the whole situation and try to get me fired. And
Why would that get you fired? I don't know.
I'm a manager and she's an employee. So
okay, so you guys aren't supposed to fraternize?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And she just told people, I guess, that she was out with that work at the restaurant that we were having sex.
Okay.
I pulled in the parking lot. She pulled in a little bit after me. I parked, and I said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And she said, yeah, what's up? And I was like, I heard you've been saying some things about me, and you continuing to hang out, and you know that we're boyfriend and girlfriend. And she asked me, she said, can I come sit in the car because I just did some heroin and I'm a little paranoid.
Heroin doesn't make you feel paranoid. It makes you extremely relaxed and oblivious to your surroundings. Some might argue that heroin can cause paranoia depending on the user, yet Sيfانا was driving moments earlier and was about to start a shift at work. If she was using, she most certainly wasn't the type to get paranoid.
Okay.
I said, why are you doing that? You know, you're doing really well. You shouldn't have been doing that.
Okay.
And so she came inside in the car, and I explained to her the situation. I told her that servers at Bonefish were coming to me and telling me that you're telling people when you're out that we're still having sex and we're boyfriend and girlfriend. And I said, I would appreciate, you know, I need you to stop because for one, it's jeopardizing my job. We agreed to, you know, stop talking mutually and just move on and, you know, be cordial or whatever. But it was nothing more than that. And she said, fuck you, you know, you're a piece of shit. And I said, she said she's going to keep talking, you know, telling lies and stuff about me and everything like that. And at that point,
Lee has just tried to cover his tracks as much as possible without giving away anything incriminating. He may have thought a witness saw him at the scene with Sيfانا and was most likely hoping the verbal argument was the extent of what was seen. He therefore gives away this detail in an attempt to come across as truthful. Yet as we know, the investigators have proof that Sيfانا never got out of the car, and he's about to lock himself into his second lie, which is exactly what the detectives want.
She had her phone in her hand, she got out of the car and walked towards the main entrance from San Jose.
So like if
So this is
like
I wouldn't say she was walking along the edge of the plaza, but she was walking maybe towards this way. And I would say an older model Ford pickup, green, drove past me and around, and she got in.
Okay.
The suspect has now thrown away his best possible defense, which would have been that he drove away from the parking lot with Sيfانا, and that she got out at another destination